I became an activist fighting for victims and survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault.
I realized that this is the first time I haven't been doubted or questioned or shamed. This is the first time that someone was really listening.
In the labyrinth of modern music's most enigmatic figures, Brian Warner, better known as Marilyn Manson, stands out as a particularly complex and controversial character. His career, marked by artistic innovation and shocking performances, has always danced on the razor's edge between genius and notoriety. This video delves into the dark corridors of Manson's life, unraveling the intricate tapestry of artistry and allegations that define him. Here, we explore the duality of a persona that has captivated and disturbed in equal measure, asking the crucial question, is Marilyn Manson an avant-garde artist, or does a more sinister truth lurk beneath the surface? Rise to controversy, the early years of Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson, a name that resonates with controversy, art, and shock, began his journey in the world of music and public scrutiny as Brian Warner. Born on January 5, 1969 in Canton, Ohio, Warner's upbringing was far from ordinary. Raised in a household that he later described as fraught with complex dynamics, his early life set the stage for the emergence of one of the most provocative figures in contemporary music. From a young age, Warner displayed a keen interest in music, particularly drawn to the rebellious and subversive elements of rock. This inclination was further fueled by the notion prevalent in his conservative community that rock music was inherently linked to devilish influences. Warner, intrigued by this taboo, began to immerse himself in the world of rock, delving into bands known for their use of satanic imagery and provocative lyrics. His fascination with the darker aspects of religion and society was not just limited to music. Warner's education in a Christian school introduced him to biblical stories, particularly those of Satan, which left a lasting impression on his young mind. This early exposure to religious themes would later become a hallmark of his artistic expression. As Warner grew older, his desire to challenge societal norms and express his burgeoning individuality became more pronounced. Upon moving to Fort Lauderdale, Florida in his late teens, Warner's journey into the world of music gained momentum. He began taking journalism classes at Broward Community College and started working at a record store. This environment provided him with a platform to explore his interests further and eventually led to the formation of his distinct persona. In the early 1990s, Warner created Marilyn Manson, a stage name derived by juxtaposing two iconic figures of American culture, Marilyn Monroe, a symbol of beauty and tragedy, and Charles Manson, a notorious cult leader. This name, embodying the extremes of American pop culture, was a perfect representation of Warner's artistic vision, one that sought to expose and explore the underbelly of society. The formation of the band Marilyn Manson and the Spooky Kids marked the beginning of Warner's journey into public consciousness. The band's performances were notorious for their theatricality and provocative nature. Warner, as Marilyn Manson, would often dress in outlandish costumes, use shocking imagery, and perform controversial acts on stage. These performances, while attracting a growing fan base, also garnered significant criticism from conservative circles, who viewed Manson's act as a corrupting influence on youth. The band's music and lyrics were equally contentious. Early albums like Portrait of an American Family and Smells Like Children delved into themes of alienation, societal hypocrisy, and rebellion. The lyrics, often laced with satirical undertones, criticized mainstream culture and poked at sensitive issues like religion and morality. This approach to music, combined with Manson's theatrical performances, positioned him as a countercultural icon, admired by some and reviled by others. As the 1990s progressed, Marilyn Manson's notoriety grew. The release of the album, Antichrist Superstar, in 1996 was a turning point, catapulting the band to greater fame while also intensifying the controversies surrounding them. The album, with its overt references to anti-religious sentiments and apocalyptic themes, became a lightning rod for criticism. It sparked debates about the influence of music on youth and the boundaries of artistic expression. the artistry and shock tactics. In the realm of modern music, Marilyn Manson emerged as a figure who masterfully intertwined artistry with shock, crafting a persona that was as much a work of art as his music. This blend of theatricality and controversy became the hallmark of Manson's career, distinguishing him as an artist who consistently pushed the boundaries of acceptability and artistic expression. Manson's music from the outset was an audacious mix of heavy metal, industrial, and alternative rock, but it was his lyrical content and thematic focus that set him apart. His songs delved into the depths of societal taboos, exploring themes of sex, violence, religion, and fame. Albums like Antichrist Superstar and Mechanical Animals were replete with references to the apocalyptic, the sacrilegious, and the dystopian. These themes were not just mere shock tactics, they were a commentary on the state of society, reflecting Manson's observations and criticisms of a culture he viewed as fundamentally hypocritical and obsessed with celebrity. Manson's artistry was also evident in his music videos and live performances, which were a critical aspect of his shock tactics. His videos were cinematic, often featuring disturbing imagery, gothic aesthetics, and surreal narratives. They were mini-films that extended the themes of his music, creating a visual experience that was both unsettling and captivating. The video for The Beautiful People, with its grotesque imagery and dystopian themes, is a prime example of how Manson used visual media to amplify the impact of his music. Live performances were where Manson's shock tactics were most vividly on display. His concerts were elaborate theatrical productions, complete with costumes, props, and special effects. Manson would often appear on stage in outlandish attire, from corsets and makeup to costumes that blurred gender lines, challenging traditional norms and expectations. His performances were designed to provoke, to make a statement, and to leave an indelible impression on his audience. Whether it was tearing up a Bible, simulating self-harm, or engaging in controversial stage antics, Manson's live shows were a form of performance art that pushed the envelope of what was considered acceptable in mainstream music. However, Manson's use of shock was not gratuitous. It served a purpose. It was a tool to draw attention to his message, to force the audience to confront their own prejudices and fears. Through his provocative art, Manson held up a mirror to society, asking uncomfortable questions about religion, morality, and the cult of celebrity. He challenged the status quo, forcing a dialogue about the very values that society held dear. Manson's cultural impact and public perception. Marilyn Manson, a name synonymous with controversy, has had a profound and polarizing impact on the music industry, pop culture, and public opinion. His emergence in the 1990s as a provocateur and counterculture icon not only reshaped the landscape of rock music but also left an indelible mark on popular culture, influencing everything from fashion to art and sparking intense debates about freedom of expression, censorship, and the role of artists in society. Manson's influence on the music industry was seismic. His unique blend of industrial rock, gothic aesthetics, and theatrical performances challenged the prevailing norms of what a rock artist could be. He broke the mold of the traditional rock star, presenting an image that was at once seductive and repulsive, intriguing and disturbing. This duality not only earned him a legion of devoted fans, but also made him a target of widespread criticism and fear, particularly among conservative circles who saw him as a corrupting influence on the youth. Manson's artistic vision extended beyond music to encompass a broader commentary on society. His lyrics and performances often critiqued consumer culture, media sensationalism, and the superficiality of celebrity. Albums like Mechanical Animals and Hollywood, In the Shadow of the Valley of Death, were conceptually rich, exploring themes of alienation, fame, and the dark side of the American dream. These themes resonated with a generation grappling with the rapid changes and uncertainties of the turn of the millennium, making Manson a voice for those disillusioned with mainstream culture. In the realm of pop culture, Manson's impact was just as significant. He became a cultural icon, influencing fashion with his androgynous and gothic style, which was emulated by countless fans and even permeated mainstream fashion. His distinct makeup and theatrical style challenged traditional gender norms and inspired a movement towards more expressive and unconventional personal aesthetics. Public perception of Manson was deeply divided. To his fans, he was a hero, a symbol of resistance against the conformist pressures of society. His willingness to address taboo topics and to challenge societal norms earned him a dedicated following, particularly among young people who identified with his outsider status. Fans saw in Manson a reflection of their own struggles and a champion of the right to be different. Critics, however, had a markedly different view. Manson was often blamed for societal ills, from violence in schools to the decline of moral values. He became a scapegoat for those looking to explain the darker aspects of society, with his music and image cited as evidence of cultural decay. This criticism reached a fever pitch following the Columbine High School massacre in 1999, where Manson was unfairly blamed for influencing the shooters, despite there being no evidence to support such claims. Accusations and legal battles. Marilyn Manson's career, while influential and groundbreaking, has been marred by a series of accusations and legal battles that have significantly impacted his public image and career. These accusations range from sexual and physical abuse to emotional manipulation, casting a long shadow over Manson's legacy as an artist. The first major wave of controversy in terms of legal issues emerged in the late 1990s and early 2000s. Manson was sued for wrongful death by the parents of Jennifer Syme, a former girlfriend of Keanu Reeves, who died in a car accident after leaving a party at Manson's home. The lawsuit was later settled out of court. Additionally, several lawsuits were filed against Manson by security personnel and concertgoers alleging assault and sexual misconduct during performances. These cases often resulted in out-of-court settlements, further fueling the public perception of Manson as a controversial and potentially dangerous figure. However, the most damaging accusations against Manson emerged in the late 2010s and early 2020s, when several women came forward with allegations of abuse. Actress Evan Rachel Wood, who had a relationship with Manson in the late 2000s when she was a teenager and he was in his late 30s, publicly accused him of grooming and horrifically abusing her. Wood's allegations were particularly significant as she had previously testified before Congress about being a survivor of sexual assault and domestic violence without naming her abuser. In her 2021 statement, she explicitly named Manson as her abuser, leading to a wave of similar accusations from other women. Following Wood's public statement, at least 4 other women came forward with their own allegations against Manson, accusing him of sexual assault, psychological abuse, and various forms of manipulation and coercion. The allegations painted a disturbing picture of a pattern of abusive behavior, with several accusers describing Manson as a master manipulator who used his fame and influence to control and harm them. In response to these allegations, Manson's record label, Loma Vista Recordings, dropped him, and he was removed from several TV shows. Manson himself denied the allegations, calling them horrible distortions of reality. However, the impact on his career and public image was immediate and severe. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department announced an investigation into the allegations of domestic violence against Manson, spanning from 2009 to 2011. The legal and public fallout from these accusations has reignited debates about celebrity culture, power dynamics in relationships, and the responsibility of artists to their fans and the public. Manson's case has become part of a larger conversation about abuse and accountability in the entertainment industry, particularly in the wake of the #MeToo movement, which has brought forth numerous allegations of sexual misconduct against powerful men in various industries. The persona versus the person, dissecting Brian Warner and Marilyn Manson. The enigmatic figure of Marilyn Manson, born Brian Warner, is a study in contrasts and contradictions. The distinction between Warner's real-life persona and his stage character, Marilyn Manson, is a complex interplay of art, identity, and perception that has intrigued and confounded fans and critics alike. This duality raises fundamental questions about the nature of celebrity, the construction of persona, and the relationship between an artist's true self and their public image. Marilyn Manson, the stage persona, is a carefully crafted character, an amalgamation of shock rock aesthetics, gothic themes, and a rebellious attitude towards societal norms. This persona is theatrical, provocative, and often controversial, designed to push boundaries and challenge audiences. Manson's use of shocking imagery, controversial lyrics, and dramatic performances has not only defined his career, but also created a larger-than-life character that has captivated the public imagination. In contrast, Brian Warner, the individual behind the persona, is a more enigmatic figure. While aspects of Manson's stage persona undoubtedly stem from Warner's personal experiences and views, the distinction between the performer and the person is not always clear. Warner has often spoken about the creation of Marilyn Manson as a response to his experiences, a way to express his feelings of alienation and his critique of society. However, the extent to which the Manson persona reflects Warner's true self remains a subject of speculation and debate. The blurring of lines between Warner and Manson has been a deliberate part of the artist's strategy. By intertwining his personal identity with his stage persona, Warner has created a sense of mystery and intrigue around himself. This blending has allowed him to express ideas and emotions that might be too controversial or personal to address directly, providing a protective layer of theatricality and artifice. However, this merging of persona and person has also led to controversies. The extreme nature of Manson's persona, with its themes of violence, sexuality, and rebellion, has often been conflated with Warner's personal character. This conflation has been particularly pronounced in the wake of the abuse allegations against him, with critics and the public questioning how much of the on-stage persona reflects the real-life behavior of Brian Warner. The concept of separating the art from the artist becomes particularly complex in the case of Marilyn Manson. For many fans, the appeal of Manson lies in the authenticity they perceive in his performances, the sense that the persona is an unfiltered expression of Warner's innermost thoughts and feelings. However, for critics, the same persona is seen as evidence of a problematic and potentially harmful character. Repercussions in the entertainment industry. The controversies surrounding Marilyn Manson have not only shaped his personal and artistic legacy, but have also had significant repercussions within the wider entertainment industry. These impacts, stemming from allegations of abuse and misconduct, have prompted responses from various sectors of the music and entertainment world, illustrating the evolving nature of industry standards and the increasing emphasis on ethical conduct. The immediate industry reaction to the allegations against Manson was swift and decisive. His record label, Loma Vista Recordings, dropped him, signaling a clear stance against the alleged behavior. This move was a significant blow to Manson's career, as it effectively halted the promotion and distribution of his music under the label's auspices. Additionally, Manson was removed from television projects, including the popular shows American Gods and Creep Show, where he had been slated to appear. These actions reflected a broader shift in the entertainment industry towards greater accountability and a zero-tolerance policy for abuse and misconduct. The response to Manson's controversies also highlighted the changing dynamics in the relationship between artists and their commercial partners. In the past, controversial artists often maintained their industry support, with their transgressions overlooked or ignored due to their commercial value. However, the reaction to Manson's situation represents a cultural and ethical shift within the industry, with companies increasingly willing to sever ties with artists accused of serious misconduct. The ripple effects of the Manson controversy extended beyond the immediate stakeholders. Other musicians and industry figures weighed in, with some expressing support for the accusers and others questioning the rush to judgment without legal due process. These responses mirrored wider societal debates about the #Me Too movement and its impact on the presumption of innocence versus the imperative to support and believe survivors of abuse. Manson's case also sparked discussions about the role of artist management and representation in addressing and mitigating problematic behavior. Questions were raised about the extent to which Manson's management and entourage were aware of or complicit in his alleged behavior. This has led to a call for greater oversight and ethical responsibility within artist management and representation, emphasizing the need for industry professionals to be vigilant and proactive in addressing misconduct. The wider cultural impact of Manson's controversies has been profound. His case has become a part of the ongoing conversation about power dynamics in the entertainment industry, particularly regarding the treatment of women and the abuse of power by influential male figures. It has also prompted a re-evaluation of the glorification of controversial figures in pop culture and the responsibilities of artists and entertainers as public figures. The voice of the victims. The narrative surrounding Marilyn Manson took a pivotal turn with the emergence of voices from alleged victims, casting a stark light on the dark side of his persona and the potential real-world impacts of his actions. The stories of these individuals, primarily women, have not only catalyzed a re-evaluation of Manson's legacy, but also contributed to a broader societal conversation about abuse, power dynamics, and the often silenced experiences of survivors. Central to this shift was actress Evan Rachel Wood's public allegation against Manson. Wood, who had been in a relationship with Manson in her late teens, accused him of grooming and abuse. Her account was detailed and disturbing, describing a relationship characterized by manipulation, fear, and control. Wood's testimony was not an isolated voice. Following her revelation, several other women came forward with their own experiences of alleged abuse at the hands of Manson. These allegations shared common themes of manipulation, psychological abuse, and physical violence. The accusers described Manson as a figure who wielded his influence and celebrity status as tools for abuse. Their stories paint a picture of a man who used the allure of his persona to attract, manipulate, and ultimately harm those around him. The consistency in these narratives, cutting across different times and relationships, suggests a pattern of behavior that goes beyond isolated incidents. The societal reaction to these accusations was mixed, reflecting the complexity of dealing with allegations against a prominent public figure. On one side, there was an outpouring of support for the alleged victims, with many praising their courage in coming forward and calling for accountability. This response is indicative of the broader #MeToo movement, which has empowered survivors of abuse to speak out and has challenged society to confront and address such issues more openly and seriously. On the other side, there were those who questioned the timing and veracity of the allegations, pointing to the lack of legal conviction and the potential for false accusations in high-profile cases. This skepticism, while reflective of a cautious approach to due process, also underscores the challenges victims face in being believed and supported, particularly when their abuser is a powerful and influential figure. The accounts of Manson's alleged victims have also prompted a re-examination of the role of the media and the public in perpetuating a culture that often glorifies problematic figures. For years, Manson's shock tactics and controversial persona were celebrated as artistic and countercultural statements, with less attention given to the potential real-life implications of his behavior. The voices of the victims have challenged this narrative, highlighting the need for a more critical and nuanced understanding of the impact of celebrity behavior. The stories of these women have also contributed to a larger dialogue about the complexities of abusive relationships, particularly those involving power imbalances. Their experiences reflect broader patterns of abuse, where victims are often groomed and manipulated, making it difficult for them to recognize the abuse or to extricate themselves from the situation. This understanding challenges the simplistic notion of abuse and invites a more empathetic and informed response to survivors and their experiences. Reflection and future implications. The case of Marilyn Manson, marked by its controversies and the troubling accusations against him, serves as a moment of reflection and reckoning not only for the music industry, but for the broader cultural context in which artists operate. It raises critical questions about artist accountability, the role of celebrity in society, and how industries that orbit around these public figures should respond to allegations of abuse and misconduct. The allegations against Manson have undeniably left an indelible mark on his legacy. Once seen primarily as a provocative artist who challenged societal norms through his music and persona, Manson is now viewed through a much more critical and contentious lens. This shift underscores the evolving nature of public perception, where the once tolerated or celebrated aspects of an artist's persona can be re-evaluated in light of new revelations and societal changes. For the music industry, the Manson case highlights the need for greater accountability and ethical considerations. The industry has long grappled with issues surrounding the behavior of its stars, often oscillating between glorification and condemnation. Manson's case pushes the industry to consider more seriously the impact of the artists it promotes and the messages they convey. It also calls for a more proactive approach to addressing allegations of abuse, ensuring that the industry does not become a haven for abusive behavior under the guise of artistic freedom. The broader cultural implications of the Manson case are equally significant. In a society increasingly aware of issues surrounding abuse, power dynamics, and the treatment of women, the stories of Manson's alleged victims resonate with a growing collective consciousness about these issues. It reflects a societal shift towards a more victim-centered approach, where the voices of survivors are given more credence and their experiences are used to inform and shape responses to allegations of abuse. The case also sparks a conversation about the role of celebrity and its influence on behavior and public perception. Manson's persona, both on and off stage, was a carefully crafted image that blurred the lines between art and reality. This blending raises questions about the responsibility of celebrities in how they present themselves and the potential impact this can have on their audience and society at large. It challenges the notion that artists can be completely divorced from their art, especially when their art and public persona are deeply interwoven with their personal identity. Furthermore, the case has implications for how allegations of abuse are handled in the public domain. The immediate and widespread condemnation of Manson following the allegations, while reflective of a societal push for accountability, also raises concerns about due process and the presumption of innocence. It presents a delicate balance between supporting and believing survivors of abuse and ensuring that accusations are thoroughly and fairly investigated. Looking ahead, the Marilyn Manson case will likely continue to influence discussions about artist behavior, industry responsibility, and societal attitudes towards abuse and celebrity culture. It may serve as a catalyst for change in how the music industry and entertainment industries more broadly address these complex issues. This could manifest in more robust mechanisms for reporting and addressing abuse, greater support for survivors within the industry, and a more critical approach to the promotion and glorification of artists.